CNN obtained an audio recording of Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry, Republican, making disparaging comments about migrants and claiming the KKK is the military wing of the Democratic Party. Perry made the remarks in a closed-door meeting with other lawmakers Tuesday during a House Oversight Committee member briefing. It was on the origins and implications of rising anti-Semitism in higher education. He also touted how replacement theory is real. Listen.
But here's where I have a problem. This refundable tax credit. See, my folks get up every day. They get up early. It's usually dark. They put their kids on the school bus and they go to work to afford their bills. By the way, which they can barely afford right now. They can't afford their groceries.
All right, y'all, so that's Scott Perry right there. That's him on the floor, running his mouth as usual on the floor, talking about, now mind you, this is one of the same people who was very much involved in trying to overturn the election. Now, he's real good with conspiracy theories and all of this sort of stuff. We're going to play the audio for you in a second, but this goes to show you what you're dealing with. Like, he's one of the top Republicans that Donald Trump looks to and MAGA Republicans look to, and this is what they are all about. Let's talk about this with my Wednesday panel. I'm glad to have everybody here. Joining me is Scott Bolton, attorney here in D.C., former head of the Political Action Committee for the National Bar Association. Also, Robert Patillo, host People, Passion, and Politics, News and Talk 1380 WAOK, who's also running for judge there in Atlanta. Rebecca Carruthers, Vice President, Fair Election Center out of D.C. Glad to have all three of you here. So here's what you're dealing with here, Scott. You're dealing with Republicans. This is what's hilarious. So he calls the KKK the military wing of the Democratic Party. But if I'm correct, the KKK endorsed Donald Trump and they stand with Republicans. Which party actually defends Confederate monuments? Which party actually supports Confederate history days? Republicans. And they also are, again, Democrats are trying to bring in these migrants, these illegal immigrants to replace us. Well, Scott, white people stop having kids. The white fertility rate, but it's just true. The white fertility rate is extremely low. That's just a fact. And so this literally, all you're hearing from him, that's this. It's white fear. How the browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. That's all this dude is about. And what he's articulating is exactly what Tucker Carlson did on Fox News, other people on Fox News. This literally is the worldview of Fox News conservatives and white Republicans because they are scared to death of the browning of America.
Yeah, and they're the same party that's against DEI, the same party that has this creation in their own mind that somehow critical race theory is taught at the grade school level or high school level or even the college level. But Roland, let me tell you what's even more dangerous about Scott Perry's rhetoric, right? What's more dangerous about Scott Perry's rhetoric is what you're not reporting on is the people he were talking to, other lawmakers, right? That they listened to it and did not interrupt him, correct him, or denounce him in that meeting. You want to stop racism in this country and race discrimination? White Americans who are silent in the face of this racial oppression and this racial rhetoric and BS, right? They need to stand up and not just be anti-racist and say, oh, no, I'm not a racist. They need to be anti-racism. So when their colleagues speak like this, that they correct them, they denounce them, and they find it unacceptable. Because until white America stands up and does that, then this poison running through 30-40% or more of the Republican Party, of MAGA, and those who certainly don't want to see 2043 or see something wrong in our democracy, when and if we become a country of color, we will never stop this generational racism. And so I'm not just critical of Scott Perry, I'm critical of those who listened, received that information, but didn't denounce him or correct him in that meeting or outside that meeting.
Rebecca, this is the quote here. The KKK in modern times, a lot of young people think somehow it's a right-wing organization when it's the military wing of the Democratic Party. Decidedly, unabashedly racist and anti-Semitic. Then he said replacement theory is real. They added white to it to stop everybody from talking about it. And then he says that he's happy that people are here that are here legally, but he also talked about, these folks who are migrating here who are un-American. Quote, what is happening now is we're importing people into the country that want to be in America but have no interest in being Americans. And that's very different. And to disparage the comments is to chill the conversation so that we can continue to bring in more people that we never met that are un-American. Now, of course, he goes, oh, my remarks were twisted. Quote, once again, the radical left twists facts in order to silence conversation about its own crimes and Biden's intentional failures to enforce laws and close or regulate our borders. My point is proven yet again. When the left loses an argument, it debases and smears instead of engaging in debate on merits. First of all, there are no merits to the conversation. There is no debate. This, though, Rebecca, this is the Republican Party. This is what they're running on. This is what they believe. When they say it, believe them, because this is what they are putting in place in terms of policy. When you got Republicans in Texas and Florida who literally are passing laws saying cities cannot order water breaks from people who work outdoors, they don't mind migrants falling dead in the fields or outside working, because they're like, we're going to outlaw water breaks and heat and heat breaks. These people, they have no decency. And so what you're seeing is a Republican Party today appeals to white racists. Yeah. They do. It's just a reality.
Roland, so he's right if he was talking about historically, KKK has been tied to the Democratic Party. But for him to say the modern Democratic Party and talking about the KKK now, we know KKK members not only vote Republican, but they endorse Republicans. If he actually was taught critical race theory, he would understand these things. If he was actually taught real history, including the history that him and his ilk are trying to ban, he would understand the difference. Now, is he right that we should do something on immigration? Absolutely. But where he starts to veer off again is saying that the people who are coming into this country, they want to live in America, but they are un-American or they don't want to be American. And much like Kendrick Lamar over the last week got us into a debate of what it means to be a Black American as an ethnic group, I think we should have a conversation around this. What does it mean to be an American in America? Because there is a wide variety of what it means to be American, but maybe it's time for us to distill it and to actually contemplate and to talk about it. I think his colleagues should have pushed back and asked him, so what does it mean to be American? How are these people un-American? After all, aren't they coming to this country to live out the immigrant story and to seize the American dream? And so it sounds like Scott Perry, just like maybe his play cousin Rick Perry, just is spouting a bunch of nonsense.
Robert, go to my iPad, Henry. This is David Duke in July 2020 endorsing Donald Trump and then also endorsing Tucker Carlson for VP. This is former KKK leader David Duke. Now, in 2016, we also saw a KKK newspaper. Who did they endorse? Oh, they endorsed Donald Trump. And so of course, that was in November 2016. Go to my iPad here, right? KKK newspaper declares support for Trump. And so it's called The Crusader, one of the white supremacist group's most prominent publications, published a lengthy endorsement and defense of Trump's message on the front page of its current issue under the headline, Make America Great Again. That's just a reality. When you saw those white boys with their tiki torches in Charlottesville, guess who they were standing with? Donald Trump. And so that's what you're dealing with. Now, is it true historically, the KKK, yeah, those were Southern Democrats, Southern Dixiecrats. Where did many of those Southern Democrats go after the National Democratic Party began to support civil rights? Oh, I quite remember the Southern Manifesto in 1948, where they met in Mississippi. They ran Strom Thurmond as their candidate. And so those Southern Dixiecrats were against the National Party supporting civil rights. They really had to split in 1964 when Senator Barry Goldwater did not support the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And guess what then happened? Many of those Southern Dixiecrats, they became Republican. Those are historical facts, Robert.
Well, not only are these facts, but just the logic behind his statement doesn't make sense, because when they asked him the question, he said, well, these are the radical left is smearing me. When they talk about the radical left, they're talking about African Americans, Latino voters, young voters, feminists, pro-abortion, transgenders, gay voters. What about that sounds like the KKK to Mr. Perry? I mean, just from a logical point of view, those people sound like they inhabit the same space when it comes to politics. And then this idea where he said the KKK is the militant.
All right, Robert. Okay, Robert, 1 second. Robert, your signal froze. Hold on, Robert. Robert, your signal froze. Now go ahead and start. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm back in the game. He talks about replacement theory that was posited and made popular by David Duke in the United States of America. That's how it got popularized by the KKK in the late 1980s. The conceptualization around replacement theory is that the white race is somehow separate and sacred. They came to America in order to ensure the progeny of Western European whites because they could not get around the Ottoman Empire to go eastward, and so you had to colonize going westward in order to have access to the Silk Road into the markets of Southeast Asia, and then thereafter, this became the cradle of whiteness in America. This is why during all their conventions, they talk about Western civilization. They're not talking about West Africa. They're not talking about the Iroquois or the Cherokees. They're talking about Western European civilization. And we're seeing this exact same issue rising in European politics. If you look at Giorgia Meloni in Italy, if you look at Viktor Orban in Hungary, who just met with President Trump, if you look at Lukashenko, if you look at the Tories in Great Britain with their Rwanda policy to deport all African migrants to Rwanda, we have this type of white xenophobia, which they believe they are being outproduced and they will become a minority on this earth, and the rest of us will treat them the way they treated the rest of us for the last 500 years. So I would love from Mr. Perry, and more so, maybe Byron Donald was in the room. They say that he, is a very strong voice, and he's the African American, the Republican Party, to really think about what they're saying and the policies they're putting in place, and realize that they are not creating a party that can survive even another decade. There will not be another decade where you can count on old white men to be the backbone of the Republican Party. Lindsey Graham said it a decade ago. They're not making old white men fast enough to keep the Republican Party, and comments and statements and positions like this are what are causing the party and the movement to die.
They are exactly who they are.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.